I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like I said at the beginning, if you hadn't jumped on already, this isn't going to be super long, but definitely time for questions if you have them. We just wanted to show you, based off of the feedback we'd received from so many of you over the last couple months since we launched DotLoop, we needed to make some changes to our Nebraska templates. That is listing and purchase, team and non-team. So I am going to just pull those up and show you what they are going to look like and a little bit of change of process. Don't panic, even though I said a change of process, it's the same process that you know, just looks a little bit different. So I am going to start with a listing file and show you what the new folders look like. Actually, I'm going to create a new one. Give me just a second here. I'm going to create my loop. This is my Nebraska listing test. And then we're going to look at the templates. Now, right now, they're not in your current templates, but if you'll see as I scroll down, you'll see I've got some of my own here that are Stacy's training templates. They will look like this tomorrow. They will just not have my name in front of them. So they will say Nebraska listing template non-team or Nebraska listing template team. The difference between those two files is just going to be that agency form. So I'm just going to do one of them. They will look identical other than that form. So I'm going to start with the Stacy's Nebraska listing template non-team. So the name is going to look a little bit different, not just the template, but the template name. We kind of thought through, it didn't make sense to say listing non-team template. We wanted to really make sure it looked cleaner and that you could identify those a little bit easier. So I'm going to select this template and continue to my loop. All right. So this is what the new templates are going to look like when you open them up. The first folder that you see is listing documents. That's not different than how we had it, only it's a lot smaller, right? We don't have all those additional documents in your main listing folder. What you see is your agency. And if I was in the team one, it would say the team agency, your listing agreement, your seller's property condition disclosure, estimated costs, and then we're always going to have those FNBO and insurance flyers in there for you. So that's your top folder. This is going to be the main place that you work. Something that you'll notice over to the right, if you've been working in DotLoop, left, if you've been working in DotLoop, is that it says optional and it doesn't say required. So these DotLoop forms say optional because maybe you are going to do some of these through DotLoop e-signatures, but some of them you're going to get a wet signature, right? Like perhaps the seller's property condition disclosure. I know many of you leave those with your clients. They fill those out by hand. They need more time. It's not always a digital process. So the documents themselves right now are no longer required, but you'll see as I scroll down, we now have a listing document submission folder. And these are required, but these are not the actual documents. These are just a placeholder title, which means if I am going through my DotLoop transaction and I am working on these documents and getting them signed, let's say I have the listing agreement signed through the DotLoop process, and that one is done and ready to be added to my submission folder. Just like before, I'm going to drag it to that location. So here I'm holding it right over top of the listing agreement placeholder title or name in the submission folder and letting go. So now that one is a part of my submission folder. But let's say I didn't use this seller's property disclosure that is in my DotLoop account, my transaction here. I actually printed that and I gave it to my client. So now I have it with wet signatures. I am going to pull that document in from my computer and still be able to put it into my submission folder. So to do that, I will click on my listing documents, add document, and it's always going to give you the option to browse. So I'm going to browse my computer for where I saved that property condition disclosure. You can see right here, I've got it with wet signatures. Oop.
Actually, Stacy, that is not showing that pop-up where
Okay.
you're grabbing the document from.
And it's telling me no all of a sudden. Because I tried to pop it up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click open on it. Can you see my pop-up now? Oh, you can't see where it's having me. Okay, hold tight. Okay, here we go. Now can you? Yes. So what it's doing here is it's allowing me to search my computer for where I saved that document. Once I locate it in if I save it in my documents or on my desktop, I can find that document and say open, and then it is going to add it to my loop. Can you see my loop again?
Yes.
Okay. So at the top, here is my wet signed seller's property condition disclosure. And I need to now add that to my listing document submission folder. So I will drag that down and hold it over and let go. Oh, did I put it in the wrong one? Where am I? Oh, I just got bumped out. Okay. So here you can see these ones are dark. So I have a document in the listing agreement and I have a document in the seller's property condition disclosure. Holding place is basically what that is. And so then all I have to do to submit my submission folder is make sure I have all my documents in this folder. So this is going to be a lot cleaner, both for you in your working documents in that top folder, as well as for the admin. They will know that in that listing document submission folder are the only documents that they are looking for. I'm going to go ahead and drag the rest of them down. We're going to pretend that these are filled out. And my estimated costs. And now you can see all of the listing document submission folder is all darks, which means I have put something in each of those places. Now, remember, some of them were those working documents that I created and used in DotLoop. And some of them, like the property condition disclosure, was done with wet signatures. So either way you do it, if it is done by hand or done e-signature, you can drag it down and put them on top of the listing document submission folder placeholders. Got a question I can already see. I didn't see the question. I'm going to let me know. So I am going to then show you how do we submit this. So just like before, you would go to submit for review. Can you see that pop up?
Yes.
Okay. And then I haven't added all this information, so it's not going to let me. But just like before, you'll click submit for review. And then instead of clicking the listing documents folder, you will just select the listing document submission folder for review.
So the question, Stacy, is the lead-based paint also in there?
So what we really tried to do was really minimize the number of documents that would show up in every single transaction. So if it's a document that is not specific to every transaction, it doesn't live here. So that's my next point. So in the case of lead-based paint, if it's an older home and you need that, what you're going to do is you're going to click the Add Document button. And right over to the left is this templates button. Now, I think this is a little confusing because we say templates, and typically that means pulling in all these documents that are meant to be a part of a listing transaction or a purchase transaction, whereas this actually means more of like a library. So if I click on the templates, I can go to Nebraska listing forms. And I can pull in any other form that I need. So the thought was we had all those additional documents in every single listing folder or every single purchase folder. The hope was to really narrow it down to what documents are required every time I do a listing. And those are the ones that are going to populate in the template. And then all of those other documents that you may or may not use, you'll come to the templates or library, whatever you want to think of it as, and find those documents and add them to that transaction. So they all live here. I can come down. Let's find that lead-based paint. Goodness, I'm going too fast. I can use that search bar too. Hold. Getting closer. Let in your home pamphlet. Lead and soil disclosure. So let's say I want this and I want the pamphlet. All I have to do is select the documents that I want and click copy. And then those documents now are going to be a part of this folder. So then I can go ahead and get those signed and pull them down to that listing document submission folder. Now, just because it isn't required, because we need those main documents required, you can still add it to that submission folder if you need it to be looked over by your admin. Going to keep scrolling down. Underneath the listing document submission folder, you will also have a purchase document submission folder. So once you receive offers in on that property, you will be able to add those documents to this submission folder as well. You can see there are required ones. Again, these are not the documents anymore. These are placeholder names so that you know I need a closing sheet. And so you can pull it down onto your purchase document submission folder. Same with the purchase agreement. Once you have that completed, you know, it will populate a purchase folder once you get it from another agent as you're working in DotLoop. But then you'll just drag it from that from that folder that gets created down into the submission folder. Did I see another chat pop up?
Lisa just mentioned that a couple things is that when you were looking for that that document in the templates, that you can use the search bar, which is really easy way to find documents if you want to use that search bar. But then she also said that we can collapse a lot of those folders too, so it doesn't look like there's so much.
Yep. I'm just, can you see my pop-up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm demonstrating that here. Thanks, Lisa. So I'm doing lead. I hid the details here so I can see more documents at one time, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Yeah, thanks for the tips, Lisa. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. So do we have any questions thus far that you want to see? I'm going to show you basically the same thing in an additional template so that you can see the purchase side as well. But really the difference is we are going to bring in way less documents into your main listing or purchase folder, just the ones that you're going to need. Those documents that originate in DotLoop that are interactive that you fill out and you send for signatures are not going to be that required piece. The required one is a placeholder name now in the submission folder. In addition, all those other documents you may need on transactions that maybe don't fit within those top 5 documents, you will go to the templates library like we just saw to get those for your transaction. Questions, comments? Okay, I'm going to do a purchase just so that you can see it. I'm going to go click back to my loops. I'm going to add another loop. We're going to name it Nebraska Purchase Test. And then again, for those of you that are popping on a little bit late, didn't see this at the beginning, the name of the templates are going to be modified a little bit as well. You can see here we have Nebraska no team listing or Nebraska team listing. We thought that was a little jumbled and harder to understand. So as I go down to my training ones right now, this is really the naming convention that we're going to use going forward. So it's just going to be it's a Nebraska listing template. And then after that, you'll see if it's team or if it's non-team. So I'm going to go down to Nebraska purchase template. This one's non-team. Looks like we've got a little typo there that didn't get corrected. If you'll write that down for me, Nikki. I'm going to click on that one and click continue. The difference between the team and the non-team templates now is just that agency form. And then for those of you that are starting to use a blank template, you will still have that ability. It will just now have a submission folder added to it. All right, question was, what about the res listing input sheet? Can that be added to top 5? Definitely, we can talk to the group that was part of creating this and see what the reason was for not adding that, but I think that seems to be a reasonable one to add. All right, now I'm in my purchase documents. Again, my purchase transaction pulled in a purchase documents folder. You can see again on the left, they're all optional. So my interactive DotLoop document, if I click on purchase agreement, just so that you know what I'm talking about, is the fillable document that we also can share with our clients for their e-signatures. That's what I call the interactive DotLoop document. That document lives here in my purchase documents. It's optional because now we have the documents submission folder. These say required. They have a title, but these are not documents. These are placeholder names so that whether you pull in a document that you got wet signatures on through your computer that you have scanned to yourself and saved, whether you pull them in that way, or you're using the interactive document for e-signatures, whichever way that you do it, you can then take that document and bring it down to the submission folder that is required. So now you can see I've got my purchase agreement that is part of the required submission folder ready to go. Did I hear somebody?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So let's say I need an additional document. Again, add document. If I'm pulling in wet signatures, I'm browsing my computer. I'm finding that document. Maybe it's an addendum. Maybe it's a wet signature agency because you got it at the beginning when you first met that client. We can pull that in as a PDF right here. Or maybe you need another document that's part of the MP Dodge library. I can click on the templates tab. And again, it takes me to all of these options. I can go to the Nebraska purchase forms. As Lisa told us, hide all those details to see more. You can always type in here to find your document a little bit easier. So you click the checkbox of the document that you want and then click copy, and you can definitely do more than one at a time. Once you have chosen that and imported it, you click OK. They will always appear at the top. Now you can see when I pulled something in from templates versus when I pulled them in from my computer, they have a different label over on the left. The one I pulled from my computer is a PDF, which means it's flat. It's not an interactive document. It's just a static PDF. And the one I pulled from the library is a working document that originates in DotLoop, so it will have fillable fields. Any questions on this? You will always have this trash folder as well. If you want to clean up your files even more, you can still drag them down to the trash folder. You can always pull them back out if you want to, but we still have that drag and drop option. Oh, I must have held it right over top. So you can always pull things down to the trash to get it even cleaner and less documents. No questions on that? Okay.
I don't see any.
I have one more thing to show the advanced loopers. So if you are an advanced DotLoop user and you've already created your own template, if you're not, this is not a requirement. This is just for those who have done a little extra work digging in. I want to show you the blank loops. So just like you had seen previously, at the top, you have this listing loop blank, purchase loop blank. And basically what that did was it didn't pull in any of our document as decided by the company. This gave you just a plain loop to put your own template into. So now we're going to have them the same way, but they're going to say Nebraska purchase template blank, Nebraska listing template blank. And what you're going to get when you open up the blank templates now is the same thing. Your first folder is going to be empty. Listing documents, that's empty, but you're still going to have that submission folder with the required documents, as well as the purchase submission folder with the required documents. Again, these are not the actual documents. These are the placeholder names. So then for those of you who are doing these yourself, if you have your own template, you'll just for this listing documents folder, click add document, go to your templates, find your template. We're just going to pretend that I have one. You can select all and click copy. This obviously is buyer information and I'm using a listing template, but wanted to show you how you could then pull in your documents.